My father looked me straight in the eye and said, "We just can't afford to take two, Ella. Your sister is going on the trip. You'll understand. You always do." That was the moment something inside me finally cracked. 26 years of being the understanding one, the girl who stayed home, covered bills, and bought half the things in that house. Now I was supposed to smile while they sent my sister on a dream vacation and left me behind. I laughed, sharp and bitter. Right. Of course I'll understand. They thought it was just another time I'd swallow the disappointment. They had no idea that while they packed bikinis, I was planning something else entirely. For the first time in my life, I wasn't planning how to survive in that house. I was planning how to leave it and what I was taking with me. My father kept talking about budget and timing like those words justified everything. My mother stood behind him, wringing her hands, saying nothing. She never did when he made decisions. They didn't notice how I watched the furniture, the appliances, the TV, things I'd worked double shifts to pay for. I was ticking them off in my head like items on a shopping list I already owned. They thought they were leaving me behind. They had no idea that by the time they came back, the girl they treated like background noise would be gone, and their house would echo in ways they'd never forget. Have you ever been treated like the extra in your own family? Tell me your story below. A week before the trip, I was in the kitchen at the counter I'd paid for, scrolling through work emails. I heard my father in the living room, voice bright with excitement. The resort sent confirmation. Ocean view room, breakfast buffet, spa credit. She's going to love it. My chest tightened. I stepped out and leaned against the doorway. My father waved printed papers like victory flags. My mother nodded quietly. My sister sat on the couch, grinning at swimsuit ads on her phone. "Hey," I said, forcing a smile. "What's going on?" My father turned like he just noticed I existed. "Oh, Ella, we're finalizing the trip. Your sister really needs this break." A break from what? Her social life? My father shot me a warning look. "Ella." One word sharp enough to cut. "Don't make it about you." My mother glanced at me, opened her mouth, then looked away. That hurt more than his words. A few days later, truth dropped at the dinner table. We were eating off plates I'd bought from my first paycheck. My father put down his fork and sighed. "About the trip. We need to explain something." I already knew. My skin buzzed with dread. "We wanted to take you both," he said, not meeting my eyes. "But we can't afford 2 tickets. Prices went up, resort fees are crazy, my hours got cut. We had to make a choice." I stared at him. "And you chose her." He didn't deny it. "We promised your sister months ago. She's been looking forward to this. You've been busy with work anyway. You hate crowds. You wouldn't enjoy it the same way." My mother spoke softly. "Maybe we could wait and—" "No," my father cut her off firmly. "It's decided. Tickets are booked. End of discussion." I looked at my mother, silently begging. She looked down at her plate. My sister shifted uncomfortably. "Ella, come on, don't make them feel bad. You know how things are." My jaw clenched. It wasn't about the trip. It was about the pattern. Birthdays where her gifts were thoughtful, mine last minute. School events where he screamed for her from the stands and forgot to ask how I did. Nights when I worked late to cover electricity while she begged money for parties. "I live here too," I said quietly. "I help pay for this house, but when it's time for something fun, I suddenly don't exist." My father's expression hardened. "That's not fair. We appreciate you." "Do you?" I shot back. "Because every time something good happens, it's for her. Every sacrifice, that's me. Every bill, I'm there. But this vacation, sorry, Ella, maybe next time." Silence. My father sighed, annoyed. "You're overreacting. You're an adult. Life isn't always equal. Your sister is younger. She still needs these experiences." There it was. The same excuse. Younger needs more. "I needed you too," I replied, voice trembling. "I needed you when I worked double shifts instead of going to parties, when I put groceries on the table. I needed you, and I kept being the reliable one you could ignore because I wouldn't explode." They looked everywhere but at me. The TV, their plates, the clock, anywhere but my face. That hurt more than words. That night, I lay awake replaying every moment that suddenly didn't feel small. The time they forgot my scholarship ceremony but showed up early to her cheer competition. The Christmas where my gift was a sweater 2 sizes too big, hers a new phone. The night power almost got shut off until I quietly paid the bill. My father had trained me to be okay with being invisible, then threw the vacation in my face like I wouldn't notice the pattern. Only this time I did, and the anger didn't fade. It grew. It sharpened. It turned into something else, something that looked like a plan. If your father chose your sibling over you because life isn't always equal, would you swallow it or finally stand up for yourself? Comment what you'd do. The morning they left for the airport, the house felt like a stage set I'd seen too many times. Suitcases by the door, laughter bouncing off walls, my sister posing for photos in her airport outfit while my father reminded her to tag the resort on Instagram. My mother moved around quietly, checking bags, straightening collars, never quite joining the excitement. She caught my eye once and looked away quickly. I stood near the kitchen holding a mug I didn't want, watching them pretend this was normal. My father came over, his good mood making him generous. He hugged me quickly, checking off a list. "Don't forget to water the plants. If any packages arrive, put them in the hallway. We'll bring you something from the gift shop." The words landed like insults. I forced a smile. "Sure. Have fun." He patted my shoulder, already turning away. "We'll only be gone a week. Try to relax for once, Ella." My sister waved from the doorway, smile bright and thoughtless. My mother lingered, looking like she wanted to say something. "Ella, she started. "Have a safe flight," I said flatly. She flinched, then followed them out. The door closed with a cheerful slam. Their laughter drifted down the driveway. The car engine faded away. The silence that followed was heavy and strangely satisfying. I set the mug down, walked into the living room, and really looked at everything. The couch, the TV, the coffee table, the shelves, the blender, the microwave, the dishes, the rug, the lamps, my furniture, my appliances, my decor. All the things I'd bought over years because we can't afford to replace that right now, Ella, and you're the one with a stable job. I went to my room and pulled out a folder from the bottom drawer. Receipts, invoices, email confirmations. Proof these things were mine. Proof I'd been keeping this house running while my father played favorites. I'd saved everything without knowing why. Now I did. I called a moving company and scheduled a truck for 2 days later. "It's mostly furniture and appliances," I told the guy on the phone, voice steady. "Everything I personally paid for, I'm moving into a new place." He didn't care about the drama. But when he asked, "Will anyone else be there?" I felt dark, calm satisfaction. "No," I said. "They're away." The next day, I went apartment hunting with clarity I'd never felt before. I knew exactly what I wanted. Small, affordable, mine. Not a space shared with people who treated me like furniture myself. Functional, present, but not worth noticing. I found a small 1-bedroom a few blocks from the beach, close enough to smell salt air, far enough from my parents' house that I wouldn't drive past it by accident. The rent wasn't cheap, but I'd been budgeting my whole life. My bank account could handle it. Unlike my father, who'd been bleeding me dry for years and calling it family responsibility. The landlord, a middle-aged woman with tired eyes, handed me the lease after glancing at my pay stubs. "You sure about this?" she asked. "Moving out on your own is a big step." I smiled. "I've been on my own for years. This is just the first time it'll be official." She nodded slowly, like she understood more than I'd said. "Well, good luck. If you need anything, I'm in Unit 12. I signed the papers right there, hands steady. No hesitation, no second thoughts. Walking back to my car, I felt lighter than I had in years, like I'd been carrying weight I didn't realize was there until I finally set it down. That evening, I sat in my parents' living room on the couch I'd bought 3 years ago after my father's bonuses mysteriously went toward my sister's spring break trip. I looked around at everything I'd provided: the TV I'd put on a payment plan, the coffee table I'd found on sale after weeks of searching, the kitchen appliances that made meals possible when old ones broke and my father said, "Can you just cover it? Money's tight." Money was always tight when it came to me. Somehow, always enough for her. I opened my laptop and made a list, methodical, detailed: couch, TV, coffee table, microwave, blender, dishes, set of 12, silverware, bar stools, set of 3, bookshelf, lamps, all 4, kitchen rugs, bathroom towels, the good ones, everything that carried my receipts, my proof, my investment in a family that never invested back. I cross-referenced each item with the folder. Every piece had a paper trail leading back to me. My card, my account, my name. My father always said I was too careful about keeping records. "Just throw that stuff away, Ella. You're cluttering your room with old paperwork." Now that paranoia was about to save me from accusations of theft. I thought about leaving a note, something dramatic that would make them understand the moment they walked through the door. But then I realized the empty rooms would speak louder than I ever could. They'd come home expecting everything to be exactly as they'd left it, expecting me to be exactly as they'd left me. Quiet, compliant, understanding. Instead, they'd walk into a house that finally reflected the truth, that without me holding it together, they had almost nothing. I closed my laptop and looked around one more time. My mother's ugly lamp sat in the corner, the one from a yard sale she insisted on keeping. My father's old recliner from his bachelor days that smelled faintly of cigarettes and regret. I'd leave those. Let them see the difference. Let them live with what they'd actually contributed. The next morning, I woke early and started preparing. Not emotionally. I was past that. Practically. I sorted through clothes, books, personal items. Everything undeniably mine went into boxes. Everything they'd given me over years, thoughtless gifts, hand-me-downs, things bought out of obligation, I left behind. I didn't want their guilt offerings. I wanted what I'd earned. By afternoon, my room was half empty. The space looked sad, stripped, but I felt the opposite. I felt powerful, deliberate, free. That night, I lay in my childhood bed for the last time, staring at the ceiling I'd stared at for 26 years. Tomorrow, movers would come. Tomorrow, I'd take back everything that was mine. Tomorrow, my father would learn you can't ignore someone into invisibility and expect them to stay forever. I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel cruel. I felt like I was finally doing what I should have done years ago, choosing myself the way he'd always chosen my sister. Do you think planning to empty the house while they're on vacation is revenge or just taking back what's yours? Tell me where you stand. On moving day, the truck pulled up exactly on time. For a second, I panicked, imagining neighbors texting my father. Then I remembered they were hours away on a beach, sipping drinks and posting stories like everything was perfect. I let the movers in and pointed things out with surprising clarity. The couch, the TV, that bookshelf, these bar stools, the microwave, coffee maker, dishes in this cabinet, silverware, the rug, all of that goes. One guy, broad-shouldered with a gray beard, raised an eyebrow. "You sure? That's a lot." I held up my folder of receipts. Positive. Every item is documented. He glanced at his partner, a younger guy with tattooed arms, then shrugged. "All right, you're the boss." We worked for hours. The emptiness spread room by room like a deliberate storm. The living room went first, stripped of everything but the old recliner my father brought from his bachelor days. The saggy, cigarette-smelling chair he claimed had character. Let him sit in his character now. The kitchen lost its shine, piece by piece. The blender I'd bought after the old one died and my father said he'd pay me back next month. That was 3 years ago. The microwave I'd purchased when theirs broke during Thanksgiving, and my father was too busy watching football to care. The dish set I'd saved for because eating off mismatched chipped plates was depressing and no one else seemed to notice. Every time the movers asked, "This too?" I checked the folder, nodded, and watched another part of my revenge click into place. The younger mover paused with the coffee table in his arms. Just curious, but why leave the lamp? I glanced at my mother's hideous yard sale lamp, the brass monstrosity with the dusty pink shade. "Because it's not mine," I said simply, "and I only want what's mine." He nodded slowly, understanding more than I'd said. I left things strategically. The ugly lamp, the chipped side table my sister insisted on keeping, the discount mirror they'd bought when I first moved back home. I wanted them to see the difference between what I'd provided and what they'd chosen. I wanted the contrast to scream louder than I ever could. My mother's decorative plates stayed on the wall. My father's football memorabilia remained untouched. My sister's prom photos still hung in the hallway. But the couch where they'd told me I wasn't worth the vacation, gone. The TV where my father watched games while I worked double shifts, gone. The kitchen table where they explained life wasn't fair while eating off my plates, still there, but surrounded by empty space where my bar stools used to be. When we moved into my bedroom, I felt finality, not sadness. This room had been my refuge for 26 years, where I'd retreat after another dismissal, another, maybe next time. Another realization I'd always come second. Now I was packing it up and taking it with me. The movers carried out my dresser, desk, bookshelf filled with novels I'd read on lonely Friday nights. When my sister partied on money she'd begged from our father. I took my bedding, pillows, lamp. I left the old bed frame they'd given me at 16, let them figure out what to do with it. By early afternoon, the truck was packed. I walked through the house one final time. The bones were still there, walls, floors, structure. But the warmth, the life, the things that made it comfortable were gone. The living room echoed. The kitchen looked sterile. The dining area felt abandoned. It looked exactly how I'd always felt living there, present but empty. I stood in the doorway and let myself feel it. Not guilt, not regret. Satisfaction. The cold, hard kind that comes from finally matching outside circumstances to inside truth. For years, this house felt empty because I was empty in it. Unnoticed, unvalued, used. Now the house finally looked how it had always felt. I locked the door, posted my keys through the mail slot, and climbed into my car to follow the truck to my new life. The drive took 20 minutes. I'd timed it so I wouldn't pass their house on my commute. A clean break, a fresh start. When we pulled up, my chest expanded. The building was small, a little weathered from salt air, but it was mine, my choice. My space. The movers were efficient. They carried everything up to my second-floor unit without complaint. I watched as my couch, TV, coffee table filled the empty apartment, transforming it into something warm and undeniably mine. "Where do you want this?" the gray-bearded mover asked, gesturing to my bookshelf. "Against that wall," I said, pointing, "where I can see it from the couch." He smiled slightly. "Good choice. Nothing like reading with an ocean breeze." The windows were open, and he was right. The air smelled like salt and freedom. When everything was unloaded, I tipped them generously. They'd helped me reclaim my life, even if they didn't know it. "Good luck with everything," the older one said, shaking my hand. "Looks like you're starting fresh." "I am," I replied, for the first time in a long time. After they left, I stood surrounded by boxes and furniture that was finally, completely mine. No one could tell me where to put it. No one could borrow it and forget to return it. No one could break it and expect me to replace it while spending their money on someone else. I unpacked slowly, deliberately. The couch facing the window so I could watch sunsets. The coffee table at just the right height. My books organized by genre, not shoved wherever they fit. I hung pictures on the walls, not family photos. Those felt tainted now, but prints of the ocean, of sunsets, of places I wanted to visit someday when I wasn't funding someone else's dreams. By evening, the apartment looked lived in, cozy, mine. I ordered takeout from a Thai place down the street. Food I wanted without anyone complaining or asking me to pick up their order too. I ate on my couch, watching the sky turn pink and orange through my window, and realized something profound. I hadn't been this relaxed in years, maybe ever. No tension waiting around the corner, no guilt about not doing enough, no walking on eggshells around my father's mood or my sister's needs. Just me, in my space, eating my food, living my life. My phone sat on the coffee table, silent. They wouldn't be home until tomorrow. They had no idea what was waiting. Part of me wished I could see their faces, the exact moment they opened the door and realized what happened. But another part, the healthier part, didn't need to see it. I'd already won. Not because I'd hurt them, but because I'd finally chosen myself. I fell asleep that night on my couch, ocean breeze drifting through my window, and slept better than I had in months. Tomorrow they'd come home. Tomorrow their phones would blow up with calls I wouldn't answer. Tomorrow my real revenge would begin. But tonight I just enjoyed what it felt like to finally be free. If you had the chance to walk away and take everything you'd earned, knowing they'd come home to emptiness, would you feel guilty or satisfied? Let me know in the comments. They came back on a Sunday evening. I wasn't there, obviously, but it felt like I was because my phone started buzzing nonstop. First was Rachel, my best friend who lived 2 houses down. She sent a picture. My father on the porch, keys in hand, face red with rage. My mother standing behind him, hand over her mouth. My sister frozen halfway up the steps. Through the open doorway, I could see it. The emptiness. No couch, no TV, no rug. Just sad, faded impressions where things used to be. "Girl," Rachel texted, "your dad is losing it." I can hear him shouting from my kitchen. "Your mom looks like she's gonna cry." My heart pounded, not with fear, but with something wild and electric. I stared at the photo for a long moment, then put my phone face down. The calls started minutes later. First my father, then my mother, then a flood of messages from my sister. I didn't pick up. I let it all go to voicemail. I made dinner in my new apartment, sat on my reclaimed couch, and turned on my TV, the same one they were probably accusing me of stealing right now. I listened to voicemails pile up, my father shouting, voice distorted with rage. "Ella, what the hell did you do? Call me back right now, right now." My mother crying softly. "Sweetheart, please, we need to talk. Whatever's wrong, we can fix this. Just call us back." My sister snapping pictures of empty rooms, sending them with panicked messages. "What did you do? This is insane. Everyone's gonna hear about this." I didn't respond. Not that night. Not the next morning either. On Monday afternoon, there was a knock at my door. 3 sharp, angry bangs that rattled my walls. I knew that knock. My father's knock. Demanding, impatient, expecting immediate compliance. My stomach flipped, but I forced myself to breathe slowly. This was what I'd chosen. This was the confrontation I'd known was coming. I opened the door. My father pushed past me without waiting, eyes darting around like a detective at a crime scene. My mother followed, wringing her hands. My sister came last, phone out, probably recording. My father's gaze landed on the TV on my wall. "There it is!" he shouted, pointing like he'd discovered stolen goods. "I knew it. You took everything, Ella. What the hell is wrong with you?" His face was redder than I'd ever seen it, veins pulsing in his neck. My mother touched his arm gently. "Maybe we should all calm down and—" "Calm down?" he snapped, whirling on her. "Our house is empty. She stripped it while we were gone. You want me to be calm?" I shut the door and leaned against it, arms crossed. "What's wrong with me?" I repeated slowly. "You mean what's wrong with me taking my own stuff?" My father spun back. "Your own stuff? Those things are for the family. You can't just empty the house because you're jealous of a trip. That's theft, Ella. That's actual theft." I walked to my small dining table, pulled out the folder of receipts, and let it slap down with a satisfying thud. "Sit," I said calmly. "I'm not sitting," my father growled. "You need to sit." My voice cut through the room like a blade. Something in my tone made him pause. Maybe it was the first time in 26 years I wasn't backing down. He didn't sit, but he stopped advancing. That was enough. My mother sank into one of my chairs, looking exhausted. My sister hovered near the door, uncertain. I flipped open the folder. "The couch," I said, tapping a receipt. "Bought with my bonus last year after you said the family needed it but you didn't have money." I pulled out another paper. "The TV, my tax refund. 12 months of payments because you insisted we needed a bigger screen for football season." Another receipt. "The microwave, my credit card. Bought it after Thanksgiving when the old one died and you were too busy to deal with it." "The dishes." I slapped down a printed email. My first paycheck from the cafe. I remember because I was so proud to contribute something nice. I kept going, laying out receipt after receipt, a paper trail of years spent funding their comfort while being treated like I didn't matter. My father's face shifted from rage to something else, not quite shame, but close. Caught. "We were going to pay you back," my mother said weakly, voice barely audible. "We always meant to." I laughed, sharp and bitter. "You've been saying that for 5 years, Mom. 5 years. Every time bills were tight, who did you come to? Me? Every time something broke? Me. Every time you wanted to wait until things got better? Me again." I looked directly at my father. But when it was time for something special, something fun, something you'd remember forever, that went to her. My sister stepped forward, voice shaking. "Ella, okay, but this is extreme. You left the house empty. People are already talking. You made our family look crazy." Her words ignited something in me. "Oh, now you care about how things look," I shot back. "Where was that energy when you were posting vacation selfies while I sat at home being told they couldn't afford 2 tickets? She flinched, tears forming. My father slammed his fist on the table, making receipts jump. "Enough! This is childish, Ella. You want to move out? Fine, you're an adult. But taking everything? That's vindictive. That's cruel." I picked up the stack of receipts and waved them in his face. "Go ahead," I said coldly. "Call the police. Show them the paperwork. Tell them your daughter stole the couch she paid for, the TV she financed, the dishes she bought. See how that goes." He glared, jaw clenched, but didn't reach for his phone. We all knew he wouldn't. He didn't want anyone examining the family finances too closely. Didn't want anyone knowing how much he'd leaned on me while lavishing everything on my sister. For several seconds, the room went deadly quiet. My mother put her head in her hands, shoulders shaking. "We were so worried when we came home," she whispered. "We thought something bad happened to you." "You were worried about the furniture," I corrected. "Not me. When was the last time you were really worried about me, Mom? Not just about whether I'd cover bills or drive someone somewhere, but about how I was actually doing." She didn't answer. She couldn't. My father stared at receipts spread across my table, his face cycling through anger, frustration, and something that might have been recognition. "I'm not coming back," I said finally, voice steady. "This isn't a phase. This isn't a tantrum. I'm done being the backup daughter who holds everything together so you can pretend the golden child is the only one who matters." My father's hands clenched. "So what? That's it? You just cut us off over a vacation?" I shook my head slowly. "No, Dad. Over years of being invisible. Over you telling me to my face you couldn't afford to treat me like I mattered as much as her. Over you assuming I'd keep pouring money and energy into a house where I was just a shadow." They left minutes later, not with slammed doors, but with heavy footsteps and stunned silence. My sister was last out. At the doorway, she turned back. "I'll call you later," she said softly. "Don't," I replied. "Not unless you're ready to talk about what you've done too." She swallowed and left. I locked the door and leaned my forehead against it, heart racing. I expected to feel guilty. I didn't. I felt clean, like I'd finally told the truth out loud and the world hadn't ended. It had just shifted, rearranged itself around new boundaries I should have set long ago. If your family stormed into your new place accusing you of stealing what you paid for, would you back down or stand your ground like I did? Share your thoughts below. The fallout came fast. In a small beachfront town, drama spreads faster than the tide. By midweek, people at the cafe were whispering about that family whose daughter moved out and emptied the house. Some told the story like I was a villain, ungrateful daughter, heartless, cruel. Others, especially ones who knew me, lowered their voices and said, "Honestly, good for her." Rachel filled in the details during my break, stirring her iced coffee. "Your dad came back furious," she said. "He was yelling in the driveway about betrayal. Your mom was crying. But then Mrs. Patterson asked questions." "What kind of questions?" Rachel grinned. "Like, didn't Ella pay for most of that stuff? And isn't she the one covering your bills? You should have seen their faces. They went pale." I imagined it, and the satisfaction was dizzying. My father hadn't just lost furniture. He'd lost the image he'd spent years projecting. The stable family man with 2 perfect daughters. Now people were asking why his hard-working older daughter had quietly moved out and taken everything. Why their house looked robbed. Why the perfect family suddenly had cracks running through the middle. My sister tried to control the narrative on social media. Rachel showed me the post, a sunset beach photo from the trip with a caption about learning who really has your back. The comment section didn't go her way. Someone from high school wrote, "Didn't your sister basically furnish your whole house? This seems harsh." Another added, "Heard she helped your family financially. If that's true, I'd take my stuff too." Even one of her friends commented, "Maybe there's more to this story." Rachel snorted. She deleted it an hour later, but screenshots live forever. I didn't like being gossip, but I couldn't lie. The idea that people were finally seeing behind the curtain felt like payback in its own way. Meanwhile, my parents lived with practical consequences. Rachel said the first time she dropped off misdelivered mail, the house looked sad. "Just your dad's old recliner in the living room," she reported. "Bare floors. Kitchen looked like a college dorm. Your mom was heating soup in this ancient pot from the 70s. My father complained loudly about replacement costs. "We didn't realize how much she'd bought," Rachel overheard him tell a neighbor. "It's going to cost thousands." As if admitting blindness somehow made it better. My mother snapped at him in the yard one day, loud enough for Rachel to hear. "If you hadn't always run to Ella for money, we wouldn't be in this mess. If you hadn't insisted on that stupid vacation, she'd still be here." For once, they weren't blaming me. They were blaming each other. That felt almost better than taking the furniture. My sister's fallout hit differently. She'd returned expecting to bask in vacation glory. Instead, she walked into a half-empty house, constantly arguing parents and whispers at work about being the favorite whose sister finally had enough. A coworker apparently asked her point blank, "Is it true your family left your sister home because they couldn't afford 2 tickets?" My sister, always so confident, had no good answer. Rachel told me she looked small for the first time. Not pathetic, but stunned. Like the golden pedestal had been kicked out, and she didn't know how to balance on her own. While they scrambled to make sense of their reality, I was quietly building mine. I picked up extra shifts at the cafe, not because I had to, but because I wanted to pad my savings. My apartment felt more like home every day. I hung pictures on walls, not family memories, but ocean prints, sunsets, Polaroids. Rachel and I took on random nights. I bought plants, 1, then 2, then 3. I cooked in my own kitchen and ate at my own table whenever I felt like it, not according to some unspoken schedule. One afternoon, my manager pulled me aside. "You've been killing it lately," she said, smiling. "We've been talking about promoting you to assistant manager. Interested?" I almost laughed at the timing. While my father sat in a half-empty house complaining about what I'd taken, I was being offered more. More responsibility, yes, but also more control, more money, more proof that when I invested in myself, instead of people who didn't see my worth, things actually grew. Of course, I said. I'd love that. She clapped my shoulder. Good, you deserve it, Ella. You work harder than anyone here. Someone noticed. Someone valued me. That felt revolutionary. Not everything was triumph and freedom. There were nights when silence in my apartment felt too loud, when the weight of what I'd done pressed on my chest. I had left. I had taken everything. I had forced my family to confront their neglect by removing the safety net I'd always provided. Sometimes I wondered if I'd gone too far. Then I'd remember my father's words. We can't afford to take two. Your sister is going. The way they expected me to nod and accept it. I'd picture them walking into that stripped house, the echo of their choices finally catching up, and I'd think, no, this wasn't too far. This was exactly as far as I needed to go. A week after the confrontation, my sister's name lit up my phone again. I'd been ignoring most calls, but this time something made me hesitate. Maybe curiosity. Maybe the fact that, unlike our father, she was still young enough to change. I answered. Ella. Her voice was small, not dramatic, just tired. Hey, I said cautiously, what do you want? Can we meet? She asked. Not at the house. Somewhere neutral, please. I thought about hanging up, about keeping the clean line I'd drawn, but I remembered years where it had been me and her against the world, before favoritism became obvious, before roles hardened. Fine, I said. The beachside diner. Tomorrow, 5 o'clock. Okay, she breathed. Thank you. The next day, she was already there when I arrived, sitting in a booth with half-empty water. No makeup, no Instagram outfit. Just my sister looking nervous in a way I'd never seen. You look different, I said as I sat down. She snorted softly. Yeah, it's been rough. We stared at each other, silence heavy with everything unsaid. Finally, she sighed. I'm not here to guilt you, I promise. I just need to understand. I didn't respond, so she continued. I know the vacation was messed up. I knew it when Dad told me, but he said you were fine with it, that you understood. He always said that. That stung. Of course he did, I said quietly. Easier than admitting they were using me. She fiddled with a napkin. I grew up thinking that was normal, that you liked being responsible, that you didn't care about trips, attention, whatever. Dad always said, Ella's different. She doesn't need all that. So I stopped asking where you were or why you weren't included. I thought you didn't want to be. I wanted to be, I said. I just learned early that wanting didn't matter. If I didn't pick up slack, no one would. So I did. And then Dad decided that meant I didn't deserve anything extra, just more work. She swallowed hard. When we came back and saw the house, I was mad at first. I thought, how could she do this? But then I started adding things up. She looked up. Ella, I had no idea how much you'd been paying for. I knew you helped, but Dad made it sound voluntary, like you were dramatic if you brought it up. Well, now you know, I said. Congratulations, the curtain's been pulled back. Do you think making them live in that empty house is petty revenge, or the only way they'd ever understand what they'd done? Let me know what side you're on. She winced. I can't defend what Dad did. I'm not even going to try. I just don't want to lose you because of them. She took a shaky breath. I'm sorry, Ella. For every time I didn't notice or didn't ask. For enjoying things I knew you weren't invited to, and telling myself, that's just how it is. I was selfish. I liked being the favorite. It made me ignore how much it hurt you. Her voice wobbled on the last sentence. I stared at my sister, the girl who'd always seemed so carefree, so sure the world would bend to her. For the first time, I saw cracks, doubt, shame. You benefited, I said slowly. Even if you didn't create the system, you enjoyed it. I know, she whispered, and I hate that I did. I hate that I didn't stand up for you. When Dad said they could only afford one ticket, I should have refused to go without you. I didn't. I told myself it was already booked, too late. But the truth is, I wanted to go and didn't want to risk losing it. That honesty hit harder than any excuse. It was ugly and real and exactly what I'd needed to hear. I took a deep breath. I won't lie. I wanted you to feel it, I said. The shock, the loss, the embarrassment. Not because I don't love you, but because you've been protected from consequences your whole life. I wanted you to know what it's like when someone makes a decision that benefits them and leaves you with the fallout. She nodded slowly, tears slipping down her cheeks. I get that now. I really do. And I know an apology doesn't fix it, but I'm sorry. I'm sorry Dad chose me. I'm sorry I let him. I'm sorry I didn't see you were drowning while I was floating. We sat in silence. The waitress refilled our waters with a sympathetic smile. Outside, the ocean glinted in fading light. I'm not ready to forgive them, I said finally. Maybe I never will. But you... I paused, searching for words. You're not innocent, but you're not them. And you're here. That counts for something. More tears fell. So what now? She asked. Now, I said, you decide who you want to be. Dad's golden child who pretends this is all my fault, or the person who finally tells them the truth about what they've done. She swallowed. They're not going to listen to me. Maybe not, I said, but I won't even consider letting you back into my life if you're not willing to try. She met my eyes, and for the first time in years, I felt like we were on the same side. I'll try, she said firmly. I'll stand up for you, even if Dad hates it, even if it makes things harder. I nodded. Then we'll see. We talked for another hour, not about the past, but about the future. She told me about work, how whispers were forcing her to think about things she'd never questioned. I told her about my promotion, my apartment, what it felt like to finally invest in myself. It wasn't magic. It didn't erase everything, but it was something. When we left, we didn't hug, but we didn't walk away from each other either. We walked in the same direction for a while, awkwardly building the outline of a new relationship, one that wasn't scripted by our father's favoritism. I meant what I said, she told me at my car. I'm going to talk to them, really talk to them, about what they did to you. Just be ready, I warned. Dad doesn't like being told he's wrong. He'll probably turn it on you. She nodded. I know, but you lived with that for 26 years. I think I can handle one conversation. I almost smiled. Call me after. Let me know how it goes. I will, she promised. As I drove home, I felt something unfamiliar settling in my chest. Not forgiveness, not reconciliation, but maybe the beginning of hope that not everything had to stay broken. My sister had been complicit in my father's favoritism. She'd enjoyed benefits while I suffered costs, but she was also standing in front of the mirror now, finally looking at her reflection and not liking what she saw. That was more than my father had ever done. A month passed before I saw my parents again. During that time, my life kept moving forward. I settled into my promotion at the cafe. My apartment felt more like home. I started a savings account labeled Future Ella, money that for once wasn't earmarked for someone else's emergency. My sister kept her word. She called sometimes, not to beg me to fix things, but to update me. They're trying to replace furniture, she said once, but it's slow. They didn't realize how expensive everything was. They fight about money constantly now. Another time, Dad tried to tell Aunt Lisa you overreacted. I told her that was a lie. I told her you'd been carrying them for years. He didn't like hearing that from me. It wasn't magic. It didn't erase everything, but it was something. Eventually, the inevitable text came from my mother. Can we talk? Just once, please. No yelling. We'll meet wherever you want. I stared at it for a long time. Part of me wanted to delete it. Another part, the one that remembered kinder years, whispered I should at least hear what they had to say. I chose a public place, a quiet cafe on the opposite side of town, neutral territory. When I walked in, they were already there at a corner table. They looked older than I remembered, not dramatically, just worn down. My mother's eyes were puffy. My father's shoulders slumped in a way I'd never seen from the man who always wanted to look in control. "Thank you for coming," my mother said as I sat down. "I wasn't sure you would." "I almost didn't," I said honestly. "No point lying now." My father cleared his throat. "We owe you an apology." The words came out stiff, rehearsed. "We handled things badly." I raised an eyebrow. "Which things? The vacation? The years before it? The way you treated me like a walking bank account?" He flinched. My mother took a shaky breath. "All of it," she said quietly. "We didn't see you. Not really. We saw what you did for us, not who you were." She glanced at my father, who was staring at his coffee. "It was easier to lean on you than to admit we were struggling. And when your sister needed something, your father gave it to her because—" She trailed off. "Because she was his favorite," I finished. "You can say it, Mom." My father's jaw tightened. "That's not fair, Ella. I never meant—" "You never meant to show favoritism?" I cut him off. "But you did. For 26 years, you did. Every decision put her first and me last." He opened his mouth, then closed it. For once, he had no comeback. If your golden child sibling finally admitted they enjoyed the favoritism but wanted to change, would you give them another chance or keep your distance for good? "Tell me what you'd do." My mother spoke softly. "We were proud of you. How responsible you were. How steady. We convinced ourselves that meant you didn't need attention the way your sister did, that you were fine." "I wasn't fine," I said firmly. "I was breaking, and you didn't notice because it was convenient not to." Silence stretched between us. At another table, someone laughed. Life went on while our family tried to stitch something decent from torn fabric. My father finally looked up. I was wrong. The words seemed to physically hurt him. I thought I was being practical, making hard choices, but I was just taking the easy way out, using you because you never complained. "Until I did," I said, "and then you told me I was overreacting." He nodded slowly. "Yeah, I did." My mother reached across the table like she wanted to touch my hand, then thought better of it. "We're not asking you to move back," she said. "We know that's not happening. We're not even asking you to forgive us right away. We just don't want to lose you completely. We want a chance to do better, to be better, if you'll let us." I studied their faces. I saw guilt, fear, shame, and something else. Something like genuine regret. But regret wasn't the same as change. I'd learned that the hard way. "Here's what I'm willing to offer," I said. "I will stay in contact. I will answer calls sometimes. I might come by for short visits eventually, but I'm not your safety net anymore. I'm not your financial plan. If you're in trouble, you figure it out like everyone else." My father nodded quickly. "Of course. We understand." "No," I said firmly. "You say you understand. Show me. You want proof you're changing? Go to family therapy, both of you. Not for one session. Commit to it. Learn why you thought it was okay to treat your daughter like this. Learn how not to do it again." My mother blinked. "Therapy? I don't know if—" "Then that's your choice," I cut in. "And this is mine. I won't accept anything less." My father's face went through several emotions: pride, resistance, resignation. Finally, he exhaled heavily. "If that's what it takes," he said, voice rough, "we'll do it." My mother nodded. "We'll look into it this week." "No," I corrected. "You'll go, and you'll let me know when you start. Until then, nothing changes on my end." We talked a bit longer, not about furniture or money, but about small things: work, weather, the cafe. It felt strange, like talking to distant relatives instead of the people who raised me. When we stood to leave, my mother reached out like she wanted to hug me. I stepped back slightly. "Not yet," I said gently. "Maybe one day." Her face crumpled, but she nodded. My father stood awkwardly, hands in pockets. "I really am sorry, Ella," he said, "for all of it." "I know," I replied. "Now you have to prove it." Walking back to my apartment, I realized something important. I didn't feel obligated to fix them anymore. Whatever they did next, therapy or denial, growth or stagnation, that was on them. My job was to protect the life I'd built. My sister texted me later that night. They told me about therapy. I'm going too. If we're going to rebuild this family, we all have to show up differently, right? I smiled a little. Right, I replied. But remember, if they don't follow through, you're allowed to make your own choices too. I know, she wrote back. Thank you for teaching me that. I curled up on my couch, the same one that had once sat in their living room, now firmly and permanently mine. I thought about the girl I'd been a few months ago, the one who stood in that kitchen hearing, "We can't afford to take two. Your sister is going," and almost accepted it as just another unfair thing in a long list. I thought about the version of me who packed up everything she owned, emptied a house, and walked away. And then I thought about the woman I was now, someone who didn't just react but set boundaries, someone who knew her worth and demanded others recognize it too. My revenge wasn't just the empty rooms they'd come home to, or the gossip in the neighborhood, or the financial strain they now faced without my help. My real revenge was this. I took my life back. I made them see the hole I'd been filling all along. And whether they ever fully changed or not, I knew one thing for sure. I would never let anyone make me feel like the extra in my own story again. The ocean breeze drifted through my window. My plants sat on the windowsill, thriving. My books lined the shelf I'd arranged exactly how I wanted. My kitchen held food I'd chosen. My walls displayed art that made me happy. Everything in this space was mine, paid for by me, chosen by me, arranged by me. No one could take it away. No one could use it and forget to thank me. No one could break it and expect me to replace it while they spent their money on someone else. For the first time in 26 years, I wasn't just surviving in the background of someone else's story. I was living in my own, and that felt like the sweetest revenge of all. Is the best revenge walking away and building a life where you're finally valued, or making them live with the guilt and emptiness they created? If you were me, which ending would you choose? Comment below.